Hello friends, and welcome to the third episode of The Mad Historian. Today we're going to be talking about the drawbacks that the Allies and Central Powers had during the war. Towards the end of the war, the Allies had inflicted several defeats onto the Central Powers, noticeably Germany. The Germans had started to lose ground on the Western Front, and the Allies had been shelling their positions repeatedly. However, both sides had been losing resources. Germany had lost a lot of its morale, France had horrific casualties, and Russia had lost almost all of its resources. But through the chaos, the Allies managed to push through and beat the Central Powers in lots of battles. This forced the Germans to come up with a Plan B. See, the Germans knew that the Russians had a very unstable government and that they had had previous revolutions in their history before. So taking this into consideration, the Germans fashioned up an amazing plan. Now, the Germans knew that a man named Vladimir Lenin, who had been writing communist papers, had been exiled to Switzerland. They knew that Lenin had been trying to overthrow the Russian government and place a communist government in its place. So, the Germans went to talk to Lenin, and after a long conversation, they finally got him to go back to Russia to start his revolution. So, they sent Lenin on a train back to Russia. Now, after he had control of the Russian government, he pulled Russia out of the war. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how Russia left World War I. So now, the Allies have a big problem. Allies realize that they have lost a very powerful member, and this is going to cause some problems since Germany now only has to focus on a one-front war. Germany is now extremely happy since now they can focus all of their manpower onto France and Great Britain. However, all this time, the USA has been looking increasingly like it was going to join the war against Germany. While all of the fighting in Europe was happening, neutral America had been supplying Great Britain with many resources and weapons. The Germans had been using their submarines to sink these ships in order to starve out Great Britain. However, things took a turn for the worse when the Germans accidentally sank a civilian ship called the Lusitania. This event left 128 Americans dead. This made the Germans realize that they had to do something about the USA before it became too late. So, Germany basically sent a letter to Mexico saying, "Can you please invade the USA?" This would eventually become known as the infamous Zimmerman telegram. However, this telegram would also be Germany's undoing, since the British would intercept the telegram and would show it to America before Mexico received it. The USA, which was already furious at Germany, declares war after hearing about the Zimmerman telegram. And these are the drawbacks that the Allies and Central Powers suffered during the Great War. However, just as the Allies think the war is over, they uncover a secret German plot that may flip the tables of the war. I shall be covering this new topic in my next episode, so make sure to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for the next episode of The Mad Historian.